Okay, tamam. Okay, Kak Raji, you just take over the recording, okay? Because I cannot remember doing it. You just take over the recording, inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, tamam. Now we were at the prophets the last time round, right? We were at Nabi Allah Salih alayhi salam. So he says here, قال المؤلف رحمه الله تعالى ونفع وقال المؤلف حفظه الله تعالى ونفعنا الله به وبعلم في الدارين. Um, from the book Nail Maram. The name of the book is Nail Maram, not Nail Maram, Nail Maram. Nail Maram, the Sharah of Aqidatul Islam, by and Aqidatul Islam itself is by Imam Al-Haddad. And so he says here and, about Nabi Salih. So we're at the part of وَبِكُلِّ رَسُولٍ أَرْسَلَهُ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى. And so every prophet that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent. So we're on the part of Nabi, going to different prophets that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent. So we're on the part of Nabi Salih alayhi salam. وهو من نسل Sam bin Nuh. And so he's also from Sam bin Nuh. He comes after Nabi Allah Hud. And so Nabi Allah Hud is earlier, the Ad people are before the Samud people. And they're both known for being very, you say very, very large in their physical size. And so they're like giants on the earth, right? They're many times more um they're many times more in the height compared to other human beings. So Salih alayhi salam, that he's from the he's from the lineage of Sam bin Noah. It is said that the Samud people, they are descendants of the Ad people. Right? So the Ad people, this is something that happens that it will recur. This is something that will recur over and over and over and over again. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will save a people. Then from the very descendants of these people who are saved, like there will come people who disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and call it commit shirk. So you see from the beginning you have Nabi Adam alayhi salam. Okay, Nabi Adam alayhi salam, he was sent down to earth, right? To live on the earth, and he had his children. So from his children, we know the story of Qabil and Habil. And so the story where Qabil kills Habil. It's a very well known story. And of course, of the children of Nabi Adam alayhi salam, those all of them they know. They know very well of the story of Qabil and Habil. Then you go, a bit more, and you come to the time of Nabi Noah alayhi salam. And Nabi Noah is the first time, on the face of this earth, where human beings were committing shirk billahi ta'ala, and human beings were giving partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah wiped up human beings. Okay, Allah wiped out human beings and left behind only those on the ship of Nabi Noah alayhi salam. So those were the people of Tawheed. They were the people who were believing in the one true God, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these people, they survived the flood. Nobody else except them survived the flood. So then comes the question, where did the people of Nabi Hud came from? Where did they come from? They came from the people of Nabi Noah. And which people? The people on the ark. So the people who were saved on the ark, the people who people who saved themselves, those who believe in Nabi Noah, and those who were strong and firm in their belief, their descendants were the Ad. It's like it is grievous that the ancestors were the very chosen people, like who were the believers on the Ark of Nabi Noah, and who was saved from a massive flood. And the story was well known. It was passed down. It was a well-known story. They knew exactly what happened to the people of Nabi Noah, and they knew why. They knew why did the people of Nabi Noah were affected by the flood. Right? But from their own descendants came the Ad, right? So after a while, the Ad appeared. Right? I mean, the Ad is from the descendants of Nabi Noah, it's people who were on the Ad, people of the Wahid. Right? So the Ad appeared. And the Ad began to ascribe unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They had idolatry, they had all kinds of things going on with them. Nabi Hud was raised amongst them. So the prophets tend to be from the same you say same they're from the people that they are sent to. So they're not strangers, but they are people that their people know. Right? So they are people who live amongst them, they grew up amongst them, like they know exactly their people. So Nabi Hud alayhi salam was raised amongst them, and Nabi Hud alayhi salam he did dawah to them, right, and they refused to listen to him, and therefore the Ad they were destroyed. So from those who survived the destruction that afflicted the Ad, right? And Ad, they were like they were the destruction was a was for strong winds, right? Strong winds that were afflicted them, that afflicted them, right? So those who survived from the Ad, they moved away from the place whereby they were at Ahqaf, right? So Nabi Allah Hud, he is at Ahqaf, right? Ahqaf is the place known here in Hadramaut, in Yemen, in Hadramaut. And so they moved away the place more upwards towards Jordan, in that area, still in the Arabian Peninsula, but towards Jordan, right? So they are the descendants of Ad, right? And they are the descendants of the righteous people amongst Ad. Happens over and over again. Right? So then now you have this people of Thamud, they're supposed to be righteous, but the descendants of Ad, right? And then they went corrupt. And they went corrupt, and Nabi Salih was sent to them. Right? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كذبت ثمود المرسلين إذ قال لهم أخوهم صالح ألا تتقون إني لكم رسول أمين. Right, so and the people of Thamud, um, they denied the prophets. They denied Nabi Salih alayhi salam. They denied Nabi Salih alayhi salam. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said Nabi Salih, when Nabi Salih said to them, will you not have piety? Will you not fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Indeed, I am a prophet sent to you. A prophet who is trustworthy. And of course, the story of Nabi Salih is long. It's a long story. I won't go through all the of the stories because we have to focus, on the aqidah is here, right? But the stories of all the prophets, they're well known. Right? You can find the stories, they're well known. But take the stories of prophets from tafsir, okay, from proper tafsir, from proper scholars. Don't just trust any book out there about stories of prophets, because unfortunately, many people are giving stories of prophets from Israeliyat. Like Israeliyat are basically the narrations by the Bani Israel, and the narrations by the Jews. And a lot of it is fabricated, exaggerated. It is false. Right? So as Muslims, be very careful. Even in Subhanallah, a lot of the books that is out there in regards to prophet stories, a lot of it has taken from the books of the Christians and the Jews, and that is wrong. And that is wrong. And that is wrong. Right? We stick to what the Quran says, and we stick to what our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. I think what is it, the Quran, does not give so many details about the prophets because all these other details are irrelevant details. Right? So which the Jews and the Christians they were obsessed about, and they will fabricate about the prophets. Be very careful, okay, about the stories of the prophets. Nabi Allah Saleh, he's one of the Arab prophets. Right? There are very few prophets that were Arab. So Nabi Saleh is counted to be one of the Arab prophets. Nabi Hud is counted to be one of the Arab prophets, because Nabi Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is an Arab prophet, right? And Nabi Ismail, and Nabi Ismail is the father of the Arabs. Right? So, mashallah. Right? So, Nabi Saleh, he was known, his story is known about the Naqah, right? About the camel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent, right, to the Thamud as a test on the Thamud, and they killed the Naqah, they killed the camel, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pelted them and destroyed them, right, in their own homes. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that the worst of the people of the past were the people of Tham, was the person who killed the camel of Thamud, and the worst of the people of the future is the person who will kill Nabi, and the person who will kill Sayyidina Ali, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. Right, tamam. And so the next one, number 6, Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, as-salatu wa Abu al-Anbiya. So he is called the father of the prophets. Abu al-Anbiya هو Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam wa Khalilullah. He is given the title Khalilullah. And so Khalil is the one who is the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Um, so Nabi Ibrahim Khalilullah, Nabi Musa Karimullah, the one whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to directly. Nabi Isa Ruhullah. Nabi Isa is the one that Allah blew his soul into him directly from Father. And Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Habibullah. And Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dalil risalatihi, the proof of his mission, Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إن إبراهيم كان أمة قانتا لله حنيفا ولم يكن من المشركين شاكرا لأنعمه اجتباه وهداه إلى صراط مستقيم. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Nahl, indeed Ibrahim, he is one ummah in himself. And truly in Nabi Ibrahim, he be risen on the day of judgment as one ummah in himself. Just Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Nabi Ibrahim, he walked the face of this earth for a long time. But only it was only maybe like four or five of the people around him I became Muslim. A handful, only a handful of people actually listened to Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. And he is one of the Ul Azm, he's one of the great prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of the five Ul Azm, the five great prophets of Islam, Nabi, the greatest of them, of course, Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Then you have Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, then Nabi Musa, then Nabi Isa, then Nabi Nuh alayhi salam. So they are called the Ul Azm. The Ul Azm, they are the greatest prophets in Islam, the five of them. Why? Because they were the ones who went through the most difficulty from their people. And they were the ones who they had the highest azm, they had the highest resolve and determination, and they had the highest patience with their people. Right. So Nabi Ibrahim, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that so Allah sent Nabi Ibrahim, he was a one ummah, and he was devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely, to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he was not of the disbelievers, of the polytheists. He was the one who was grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of Allah's favors unto him. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pulled him aside. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elected him and guided him to the straight path. The Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, he reached the age of 175 years old, right? And he was said that he is buried in in Sayyidina Muhammad. So he was buried in the city of Khalil, right, in Hebron, in Hebron, right, and he is and the real name of this town is called Arba, right? And he is and so Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, he is of the well known of the very well known prophets, right? Of Islam. His stories are well known, and his stories are steady to see the way of da'wah. And so from the very early stories of him and his uncle Azar, that he spoke to, and there's so many proofs to prove that Azar was indeed the uncle of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam and not the father of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. And of course, one of the biggest proofs is that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused for the light of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to go in the backs of those who do sujood by the sajideen. So the light of Rasulullah travel from Nabi Adam alayhi salam to Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the backs of as-sajideen, in the backs of those who do sujood, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, right, so that is one of the biggest proofs. Right, so if Azar, because Nabi Ibrahim is an ancestor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, so if Azar was mentioned in the Quran, in the story of Azar and Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, if Azar was his father, then that would contradict the hadith because Azar was an idol worshipper. In fact, he made idols. Right? Not only was he an idol worshipper, he was someone who actually would carve out idols and sell them, right, to the people of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Right? So even the worst of them, right, the worst of them, carve out idols and sell them. Right? So that was Azar. Right? So not possible that he was an ancestor because it would make him the father of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, that would make him the ancestor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it's not possible that any of his ancestors were actually disbelievers. All of the ancestors of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were known to be believers by the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he went through the sajidin, that he went through those who were prostrating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his ancestry. Now, so Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, so he himself, so it was said that Nabi Ibrahim, so he lived to the age of 175 years old. He conceived, or basically his wife conceived Nabi Ishaq, Nabi Ishaq. His first wife, Nabi Ibrahim actually has more than two wives. Not just two wives, eh? I think he has two wives, but he has more than two wives. Nabi Ibrahim, but two of his wives are known. And two of his wives are known. They are Sarah and Hajar. So Hajar was the one who had Nabi Ismail at a younger age, to Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, and the story is well known of her being placed in Mecca. Then Sarah, Sarah, his first wife, she only became pregnant with Nabi Ibrahim's other son, Ishaq, when she was in her 90s and Nabi Ibrahim was 120 years old. It was said to be that. No, Allahu Alam. And of course, Nabi Ibrahim actually has other children around the world. It is said that he went to Asia, he had a wife there, and he had children in Asia, and so on. Allahu Alam. Allahu Alam. But Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Now, right, so it was said that Nabi Ibrahim, he was of the first prophets to do circumcision. And he was circumcised when he was 80 years old, mashallah. He was circumcised when he was 80 years old. And circumcision, it is from the sunnah of prophets. And the sunnah of prophets is to circumcise. To circumcise and to circumcise for the men and for the women. Both sides. And circumcision is the practice of prophets, and it is from purity, and that we circumcise. So Sayyidina Abu Hurairah he narrated that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, he circumcised when he was 80 years old. MashaAllah. Okay, Nabi Lut alayhi salam, go through quickly. Nabi Lut alayhi salam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him to the people of Sodom wa Gomorrah. Sodom wa Gomorrah. And Sodom wa Gomorrah, they are not just two towns. They were a people, and it was said that they were made up of 70 different towns. And all of these towns, they were homosexuals. So Shaitan has begun his homosexual, game from a very beginning, from the very onset, of humanity. So Nabi Lut alayhi salam, he was said to be the nephew of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Allahu alam. But he was said to be the nephew of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. And he was of course a believer in Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. He was a prophet himself. And he was sent to the people of Sodom, and Gomorrah. And the word sodomy comes from the word Sodom. Sodom meaning the people of the people that Nabi Lut was sent to. And they were people who lived in a place. So they lived near they actually lived at the Dead Sea that we have today. So the Dead Sea that we have today, that is where in Jordan, that is where the people of Sodom and Gomorrah from Nabi Allah Lut, they had stayed. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كذبت قوم لوط المرسلين إذ قال لهم أخوهم لوط ألا تتقون إني لكم رسول أمين. And so the people of Lut, they denied the messengers when their brother Lut said to them, will you not have taqwa? Indeed, I am a prophet. I am a prophet to you. I'm a sincere prophet to you. So Nabi Lut alayhi salam, this is about Nabi Lut. Nabi Lut alayhi salam, he is Ibn Akh, his nephew. Nephew of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. And that he had believed in Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, and he had migrated Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, from Iraq. They were all in Iraq at first. Then they migrated to Palestine. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Nabi Lut to the people of Sodom, and most of them, they were homosexuals, and they was the most gross of homosexuals, right? And subhanallah, so this is the proof in the Quran, about the impermissibility of homosexuality. It's haram, haram, haram. There are people out there in our zaman, they are twisting the entire words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they have said that, oh, Nabi Allah Hud's people, is Nabi Allah Lut's people, they were not, it was not that they were homosexuals that was the blame. It was because they were raping people who went past their town. Anybody who went past the town, they were raping these people. Oh, subhanallah, like it was because they were homosexual. It was because they were homosexual. They were doing homosexual acts amongst themselves. And as well, yes, they were also violating people who were going past the town. They were a very vile group of human beings. The worst group of human beings. And it was that, for them, خسف الله تعالى بقومه, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he basically caused for the earth to swallow them, and they were swallowed by the earth. And so it was said that, and Allah says, وَجَعَلَ عَالِيَهَا سَافِلَهَا, Allah subhanahu has made the top of the earth, the bottom and the top. وأمطر عليهم حجارة من سجيل أي وأنجى الله لوطا وأهله إلا امرأته كانت من الهالكين. Right, so what happened was that when Nabi Lut alayhi salam, he was calling the people, day and night, right, to leave their terrible practices and to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were also idol worshippers, right? They also had shirk amongst themselves, right? So they had all of these things going on, and they had idol worship, they had their homosexual practices, right? They were violating anybody who came to the town. So we know that when the story of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, the angels had come to Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam to give the good news of Ishaq, right? To give Nabi Ibrahim the good news of Ishaq, and after Ishaq, Yaqub. And so when the angels were there, Nabi Ibrahim asked the angels, where you're off to? After Nabi Ibrahim's house. And the angels said, we are going to Lut's people to destroy them. Right? The commandment has come that it is time to destroy the people of Nabi Allah Lut. Right? And Nabi Ibrahim said to the angels, but Lut is amongst them. Right? Lut is there. And the angel said, Allah knows better who is amongst them. Allah knows, of course, Allah knows that Nabi Allah who he is there. Right. So and Nabi Ibrahim, he was concerned, about Nabi Lut being there. But of course, Allah knows what he's doing. Right. So when the angels appeared in the town of Sodom and Gomorrah, right, at the house of Nabi Allah Lut, right. So they came as very handsome young men, the angels. They came as very handsome young men. The wife of Nabi Lut, while she herself was not a homosexual, and there's a problem with her, she is not a homosexual, she was encouraging the homosexual, the wife of Nabi Lut. There are two wives, right, that Allah mentions in the Quran and also the Tahrim, that them being married to the best of human beings in their time did not benefit them at all. And these were the wives of Nabi Lut and Nabi Nuh alayhi salam. Right, so Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, his wife was mentioned in Surah Tahrim as a wicked woman who disbelieved in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and disbelieved in disbelief in Nabi Nuh alayhi salam. Nabi Lut, his wife also described as a wicked woman. It was said that Nabi Nuh's son, the one in the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes him as the one who was drowned in the flood. Right. So if you know the story of Nabi Nuh, there was one of his sons that he would cry out to the sun during the flood, oh my son, come onto the ship with us. Come onto the ship with us. And the son says, I'm going to go to the highest mountain and it will save me from the fire, from the flood. And Nabi Noah said that no one will be saved from the flood except those who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and with him between them, and the son was drowned. Okay, this son is said to be not the real son of Nabi Noah, but the son of his wicked wife. So he was a stepson. The son that is spoken about here is not from the lineage of Nabi Noah, but he was from his wicked wife, and so this person was a stepson. So both his wife and her son that is not from him, they were both wicked, and they were both disbelievers. Now, so Nabi Lut's wife, she went ahead and she went to tell the people about the handsome young man who were her guests in her house, and they were actually angels, right? But she went to inform the people about the handsome young men that were in her house, and they came running to the house of Nabi Lut with so much lust in their eyes. They were that disgusting. The people of Nabi Lut, they had no shame whatsoever. Right? They were just lustful individuals, right? Subhanallah. So they went to the house of Nabi Lut, trying to, break in, get to the handsome young men that they knew were in the house of Nabi Lut. Nabi Lut was so desperate to stop them. And he said, do not, and in the Quran, it is described, that he said, do not shame me in front of my guests. I do not bring me shame. Here are my daughters. You can marry them. They are better for you as a woman, right? For men and so on. But of course, the people, they were stubborn, and the angels said to Nabi Lut alayhi salam, don't worry, Lut, we are angels to tell you that in the morning the punishment will come. So you and your family leave the town. With all the believers, leave the town before the morning and do not turn back. And for those who are in the town and those who turn back, because when you turn back, that means that there's a concern for the people of the town, right? They're all destroyed. So as Nabi Lut left the town, and it just urged you to leave quickly because the morning is coming soon. So as Nabi Lut left the town, his wife was with them, but the wife turned back. And the wife, because she was connected, she was attached to the people of the town, she turned back and she was cast into stone. And she was made into stone as Allah rained upon the people of Nabi Lut, first and foremost, fire stones, like Sijil, right? There was rain onto them at first, and then Jibril was sent, and Jibril basically he lifted all of the towns. There were about 70 plus towns. He lifted all of the towns with the tip of his wing, and he flipped them. And he flipped them like a pancake, and he flipped them on themselves, and they were crushed in the way they were, right? And then water was sent, and it covered the entire town, the entire area. And that water is today, what we call the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea, the very high salt content, the Dead Sea. And so the Dead Sea is actually a place of la'na, it's a place of curses. The curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the punishment, the azab, happen, at the Dead Sea. So it is on us Muslims to not want to go to the Dead Sea and see the Dead Sea and swim in the Dead Sea and want to have the products of the Dead Sea and to buy all these Dead Sea products, whatever. And a lot of these Dead Sea products, right, they are all supporting what? Good Nabi Ismail alayhi salam, this questions here. Mm. So Nabi Allah was in a town called Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah, right. Nabi Allah is Sodom and Gomorrah. نعم. إلى قرية أهل سودم. Sodom and Gomorrah. That was the town that he was in. Sodom and Gomorrah and the Dead Sea. The area is the Dead Sea. تمام. These are ancient towns. They don't exist anymore. They were all destroyed. They were destroyed when they were destroyed in the past in the town of Nabi himself. Now, is it a question? Was it your question? Any Sodom and Gomorrah. The town is called Sodom and Gomorrah. So what the town is called Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, there was about 73 towns. It was not one town, okay, there were like 73 towns. He was sent to all of them. Right, to all of them. There were like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of homosexuals there. The entire area were homosexual. The entire area. And they were cursed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, Nabi Ismail alayhi salam, the proof of his prophethood, وَذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إِسْمَاعِيل. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about Nabi Ismail alayhi salam, and mention in the book Ismail, إِنَّهُ كَانَ صَادِقَ الْوَعْدِ وَكَانَ رَسُولًا نَبِيًّا. And indeed, he had fulfilled the promise of Allah on Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, and he was a prophet and a messenger and a prophet. Right, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him right to the Arabs. Right, Allah sent him to the القبائل العرب. Right, so نعم العربية, not Arya, Arabia. Right, so Allah sent him to the Arabs itself. Right, and that Nabi and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so he was in the people of Arabia, right? And there was a tribe that was going past him and his mother when he was a baby, and when he was a baby, and he was placed in Mecca. There was a tribe that was going past them, and they saw that Hajar had water, and they settled. So because Nabi Ismail, he grew, he became, or he was given the prophethood, and he was calling the people to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And therefore the Arabs, they were very well, they were very, well informed about the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in fact, polytheism, amongst the Arabs came very, not it was not something that was ancient, no. It was something that was recent, compared, was recent when the Prophet ﷺ emerged. So when Nabi Muhammad ﷺ emerged, polytheism was something quite recent. that appeared in the Arabian Peninsula. So for a very long time, the Arabs were monotheists. They were believers in one God. They had fought Nabi Ismail and very strongly. But it was really like, close to the time of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Not so far, right? Close to the time of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? Whereby one of them had gone to Sham, to Syria, and had seen people worshiping idols, and he bought his own idol and he brought it back to Mecca, and people began copying him. And that's a bid'ah. That is a real bid'ah. That is an innovation. He brought the idol back to the people of Mecca, and they began worshiping it, and they all began wanting their own idols, and they all began buying idols, and they began populating the Kaaba around the Kaaba with idols. That was how it began. But it was something very recent. That is why you still have people in the time of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, whereby they were true followers of Nabi Ismail alayhi salam. So the message was still there. And the message of the one true God was still there in the society that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was sent to, and that is why we believe very strongly that the parents of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that they were monotheists, right? They were believers in God, and they were monotheists. All of the ancestors of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they were believers in God, and they were believers in God, and they were monotheists. So it's not possible for people to say that the parents of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam are disbelievers, because there were monotheists in his time. He himself, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he grew up as a monotheist. Sayyidah Khadija was a monotheist, right? Warqa bin Nawfal was a monotheist. Sayyidina Abu Bakr was a monotheist. There were a group of human beings in Mecca that they were holding on to the religion of Nabi Ismail alayhi salam. And so it's not at all impossible that his parents were also monotheists and they were believers. And they are people of paradise, right? So people of today, there are those out there who have nothing better to do with their time than to curse the fact that the parents of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and to say the parents of Rasulullah are in the hellfire when they don't even know if they themselves are in the fire or in the paradise. Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Right? So it's not beyond Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Understand that it is not beyond Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah subhanahu wants to place someone in paradise, because Allah wants to give hidayah, even before the coming of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, so Nabi Ismail, he is the older of the sons of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Good question about homosexuality. I will homosexuality. I will discuss it in fiqh tahawulat. But this is a question here where someone asked a question about how do we fight homosexuality in our era, right? And I just saw the article that now Saudi, they are what are they doing for the homosexuals? So I didn't read the article, but I saw it. Someone shared with me the article about the homosexuals. Um, yeah, but I I didn't read the article, but about Saudi. Well, do you want to see the article about Saudi opening up for the homosexuals? Okay, we'll read it. We'll go and read it on. Right. Saudi, if you also know by now, Saudi is a slave of Israel. If you don't know this by now, Saudi was created by the Jews to control the Muslims and to control the Muslim lands. They were made up by the Jews, the Saudi family, and they were picked out by the Jews, right, to be their slaves, right, in the lands of the Muslims. So don't think that they know what they're doing. No, they're just being slaves to Israel, and being slaves to the Dajjal. So you're not, it's not surprising. People keep getting surprised what Saudi are, the LGBT and so on. Right? So people keep getting surprised what Saudi is doing. If you understand the entire formation of Saudi Arabia and where it came from, you would be so, like it's just obvious why they're doing what they're doing. Right? They are dunya. It's just dunya. They have no concern for deen at all, zero. They have no concern for deen whatsoever. It's all about money and whatever money brings in. Right? And it is really the Jews controlling Mecca and Medina. It's really the Jews, but under the guise of this, the Saudi family. Full stop. Like under the guise of the Saudi family, but it's the Jews that's controlling Mecca and Medina. Ya Allah, the design is, and they are bringing in dunya and destroying these places. And this has all been prophesied by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in hadith, like that Mecca and Medina will be destroyed. Will be destroyed not physically, it will be destroyed spiritually. There'll be no spirituality whatsoever in Mecca and Medina, in our times. And this article. So it's not surprising, and it says Like I see all these articles, people are like, how could they? How could they? If you knew what they were about and their goal and why they were formed, it just makes a lot of sense. I mean, it says not make a lot of sense, but it says like it's not surprising. It's not surprising. So people say, how can Saudi not support Palestine and whatever? Saudi is like the child of Israel. Didn't you know that? And so of course they will not support Palestine. And they are in service to Israel. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. A lot of the Muslim countries, they are slaves of Israel. They are slaves of Israel. That's why none of them are doing anything, because they're obedient, to Israel. Only like countries like Yemen have nothing to lose, no ties to anybody. They're the only ones who's doing things because they're not bound, by their by their slavery towards Israel, unlike all these other very rich countries. Subhanallah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Right. So anyway, in our zaman, someone was questioning about how do we stop homosexuality in our zaman. Really, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. First thing first, from a very young age, because the thing about it is that there's two things. People who they grew up and they grew up hearing that it is wrong. They grew up hearing about what is natural. They grew up hearing about what is right. That is tarbiyah from a very young age. That is essential. That is crucial. From a very young age to teach our children, about Allah, about the fitrah of a human being. Now, and that is a himaya. That's a protection. Right? So that is necessary. Right, and also as they grow into adulthood, as they become teenagers, and they begin to understand sexual matters in life, when you become teenagers, Annie, right? Then to speak to them about the homosexuals. I don't speak to them too young, but later on speak to them about the homosexuals. But prior to that, do say to them, about that men are for women are for men, right? Father and mother, that be married together, that kind of thing. I so just to teach them from a very young age, right? But in our zaman, right, the rhetoric that's going on out there, right, is that it's all about Singapore. We just had the pink dot thing. We just had it some time ago, right? About they want equality, they want family unit with father and father, or two fathers or two mothers or two. Allahu alam wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. So all of these things, like it is, you need to bring it into discussion, right? Because our young, they are taking into this, they're buying into these arguments, right? And these are false arguments, and this can be, even if someone is not a homosexual, it can make them like the wife of Nabi Lut, alayhi salam. I remember she was counted as part of them, right? She was counted as part of them, right? Subhanallah. Even though she herself was not homosexual and she was the wife of Nabi Lut, alayhi salam, right? But she was someone who supported what they were doing, and she encouraged them, right? So there are of our youth who actually agree, right, with the statements of the homosexuals, in our zaman. It's all about love, it's about personal choice, it's about preference, it's about whatever, it's about rights. No, it's all wrong. And for us to teach them from a young age, how these things are wrong. The entire topic is a big and broad topic, and inshallah there should be courses on this, right, to teach our parents, our to teach our community, how do we approach this matter. Right. Yeah, the Arabs, the Saudi is just going crazy over there. They are bringing their idols back, and they have some form of pride with their idols. It's so much jahiliyyah, so much ignorance going on there. They are not, subhanAllah, they want to raise their tradition of idolatry. Subhanallah. Unless you just like, but if you understand what they are, and they are slaves of Israel, which means they are slaves of Dajjal. You understand why they're doing what they're doing. They're not sincere. They're there for a purpose. They have an agenda. And you understand why they're there. Okay. Ishaq bin Ibrahim alayhi salam, salam, دليل رسالته, so the proof of his prophethood, Nabi Ishaq bin Ibrahim, وبشرناه بإسحاق نبيا من الصالحين. And Allah gave him the good news of Ishaq, and he is a prophet from amongst the righteous. And so he was a prophet, right? Uh from the land of the Canaan. Right? So Canaan is a land whereby you hear about the name of this land in the story of Nabi Yaqub. And Nabi Yaqub's story, you find the land of the Canaaniyin, right? And that he was buried close to his father in Al Khalil in Hebron. I said that was where they buried, and they all fall in Palestine. They all buried in the lands of Palestine. So Nabi Ishaq alayhi salam, like from Ishaq came Yaqub, and from Yaqub came Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam. So Nabi Ishaq and Nabi Yaqub. So Nabi Ishaq, he was known to only have one son. There was one of the narrations. He was known to only have one son, وخلاص, and his one son was Nabi Yaqub. Nabi Yaqub is the one who had many sons. I said Nabi Ibrahim had a few sons. He had Nabi Ishaq and Nabi Ismail. He also had other children. Right? Nabi Ishaq had one son, Nabi Yaqub. Nabi Yaqub's other name is Israel. He has two names, Israel and Yaqub. So Yaqub alayhi salam, his other name is Israel. And that is why the Bani Israel are called Bani Israel because they are from Israel, Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam. The 12 sons of Nabi Yaqub became the 12 tribes of the Bani Israel. And the proof of his prophethood, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَوَهَبْنَا لَهُ إِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ وَكُلًّا جَعَلْنَا نَبِيًّا. And Allah says that Allah has given Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam Ishaq and Yaqub and made both of them prophets. ويعقوب أبو أسباط, right? So in the Quran, Allah mentions about the asbaq, right? Asbaq, right? About Ibrahim, wa Ismail, wa Ishaq, wa Yaqub, wal asbaq, right? Asbaq, right? So the asbaq, they are you will say they're the sibit meaning grandchildren. So the asbaq, they're the grandchildren of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, and there were 12 of them, the sons of Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam, right? And credit to them, you will have the lineage of Nabi Shu'aib, right? So apa the lineage of the Bani Israel themselves. Right? So they have the 12 tribes of the 12 tribes of the 12 tribes of Bani Israel, right, are connected to Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam. Right? And so the 12 tribes of Bani Israel, from the tribes of Bani Israel came other prophets, right? So you have Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam, and from Nabi Yusuf there were other prophets, and it was spread out. It was spread out among the tribes of Bani Israel. So it's not that to say that the prophets only came from the tribe of Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam. No, they came from different tribes, right? From across the board over all 12 tribes. So Nabi Yaqub, so he is also said to be the father of prophets because through him came the other prophets, but of course, Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, he is greater, right? Because he is one of the Ulul Azm. And so Nabi Yaqub, he was one who was mentioned in the Quran, whereby he gave advice to his sons at the point of his death, at the end of, if you come to this, to just one, at the end of the first juz in Surah Baqarah, where you find the scenario of Nabi Yaqub speaking to his sons, what will you worship after me? And they say, we worship you, we worship what your forefathers worship. Um, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one true God subhanahu wa ta'ala. So inshallah tomorrow we'll continue Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam. Barakallahu fikum. I'm going to go through quickly because I don't want to spend so much time on this part. You will learn it eventually when you go to tafsir. You go through all the sources of Quran of prophetic stories. But be very, very careful, right, as your sources. Make sure that the ones that you learn from regards to prophets is from a scholar, right, a true scholar, right? And Habib Omar, he does love tafsir, as a tafsir from proper scholars. I don't go through, sources that are like, doubtful. MashaAllah. Barakallahu fikum. Are there any questions? Okay, there are no questions. Just thought for the day was Allah ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.